One of the most important parts of every season is who's going to be the leaders.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. And this episode is like 35-minute energy. So just hang in there with us. I want to thank you every day for being here every day, and thank you newbies for being here today. And thanks everybody for making it your first listen every single day. Jimmy, Quay Rousaw was asked about the leaders for this particular football team coming up. And I thought some of his answers were interesting. What you have to remember when people are asked questions like this is they're kind of on the spot, and it's not like they've had a lot of time to think about it. You know, it's sort of what pops in their head. Number one, that probably makes it more honest. But number two, you could legitimately leave somebody out, because we can talk about all the names on here. One name that I didn't hear him say was Deontay Lawson, which I would have thought would be one.
Right. And I would think maybe off the top of my head, it would be because Lawson's obviously out there and a big part of everything, but he's not practicing right now. So maybe that's why his name's not at the top of the list, in the sense that Lawson's hurt and not practicing this spring. What stood out to me, Luke, first of all, I think this team has really impressive leadership. I think there's two ways to look at leadership. One is, who are the captains, who's in charge of leading, and how significant are they? And number two, what is the depth of leadership? I think most teams at Alabama have one or the other, and few teams have both. This team has both. I think they have some obvious captains. I mean, Deontay Lawson has already been a captain, and he's back, right? I mean, he's an obvious captain. I think Tim Keenan has been here for 5 years and is a major leader on the team. To me, Tim Keenan is like an obvious captain. On offense, it's a little less so, just simply because the quarterback is brand new and usually not a captain, though Simpson is reportedly on the leadership council, which I think is significant news for any number of reasons. I think Jeremy Bernard is a guy that's a natural leader. I think Parker Brailsford is. So I think that there's clearly many captain candidates, and that's what makes for overall leadership. To me, what stood out to me, though, about this, and there's an article on BOL, and there's a lot of interviews out there with Quay Rousaw, because Quay was one of the players that met with the media on Wednesday. I think Quay is new to the leadership discussion. This is only his third year in the program. It'll be his second year as a starter. And Quay actually, for those of y'all who read it, several members of the team this past Saturday went and visited a kid who's a big Alabama fan who has stage 4 cancer. And the kid is about to undergo cancer surgery and lose his femur. And Quay Rousaw is who organized, didn't just go, but organized the trip, and several Alabama players volunteered to go with Quay. And they went and spent the day with the kid, and they went fishing with him, and they had a blast. And Quay talked about it, and there's been a lot of pictures on the internet about it. But Quay didn't just go; he organized the trip. And I think it's just that's a new name to the Leadership Council, and he is on the Leadership Council. But it's a good example, Luke, of how this team, the makeup of this team it's deep with leaders. Keon Sabb is another one. Sabb's one of the biggest leaders on this team. Jaden Roberts has leadership. So does Caden Proctor, even though he's a true junior. He's one of the leaders. I think
Tim Keenan.
Watch, though.
Tim
Keenan for sure. I think Keenan, I would bet on Keenan being elected captain by his teammates. Fifth-year player. He was a major leader on the team last year. He just wasn't a captain in name.
When I go on radio on Wednesdays and you fill in admirably for me sometimes, like when I'm in the Dominican, I meant to ask you how that went. I guess it went fine.
Yeah, the FCC retained its license.
There we go.
Doug Amos's FCC license is still in effect, so didn't ruin that for anybody.
So one of the couple of things that were asked about, this was one of them, was talking about, well, what do you think about the guys that were mentioned and guys that weren't mentioned? And I said, Tim Keenan to me jumps out because I feel like he's a Gump.
Yeah.
Not every player on Alabama is a Gump. All of them are going to be Bama fans for life, probably, but they're degrees. They're people who listen to podcasts every day, and they're people who don't. And they're my dad pulls for Alabama, but he couldn't tell you. He thinks I'm borderline challenged because I give so much of a crap about somebody in Nevada that Alabama's looking at for 2027. He thinks something's wrong with me. But there's levels. I think Tim Keenan is upper level Gump, like stage 4 Gump. And I dig it. And that's why I want him to be a captain, because I think guys like him, where it's good to have a stage 4 Gump, it's good to have also an uber talented player that's a hard worker. It's also good to have probably a chip on the shoulder guy that maybe everybody doubted, sort of a Sam Collins-esque for a throwback.
Wow.
And I'm not –
reached that. I love that name. Boy, that was a reach.
Everybody immediately is going to go, oh, so you want Cole Adams to be captain? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like Sam Collins.
They are similar players. I'd never done that comp. But boy, that's blown me away. I'm going to be talking about that all day. That's good. They are really similar.
But the one thing that stood out to me was that he mentioned Ty Simpson.
Yep.
And I say it stood out because I'm glad he did it. It would have been more troublesome for him not to mention it than it is controversial for him to mention it. Meaning there's obviously, the coaches obviously want the quarterback battle still going on. They want everybody, putting their best foot forward. And it does feel like, we did a podcast the other day as Greg McElroy Wright about saying Ty Simpson has a strong hold right now, or at least a medium hold on the quarterback position. I think I have discovered since that time that, yes, it is stronger than I initially thought. And again, it's one of those go with your gut things. You and I have been going with our gut for a long time about like, hey, Ty Simpson's going to be the guy. And we have also become infatuated with Keelan Russell, just like a lot of people have become infatuated with Austin Mack. But my point is, if he had not said Ty Simpson, I think that would have just been louder than mentioning Ty Simpson and arguably having some people go, well, the race isn't over yet. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I think here's the tricky thing to me about Ty and leadership. To me, it was a huge story that it became known that Ty Simpson is on the leadership council, because the ideal situation, and we had this at Alabama the last year especially, and in previous seasons, of course, the ideal captain is the quarterback, because there's no doubt who's in charge of the offense and who's running the offense and who's out there sort of running the show between the lines. So the ideal situation is the guy that's running the show between the lines is also running the show outside the lines. That's ideal. That's what everybody wants. In the NFL, usually, if you're asking who the captain of the football team is, it's usually the starting quarterback, the face of the franchise. It's Dak Prescott, it's Joe Burrow, it's Mahomes, it's Josh Allen. Those are your captains and your leaders. That's ideal. Well, you can't just name, okay, Ty Simpson's a captain when he's in a battle or a public battle to be the number one quarterback. Yet inside the program, let's say hypothetically that Ty is leading the quarterback battle. Now he's on the leadership council. It starts kind of adding up, right? But you do ideally want the quarterback to be on the leadership council and a captain of the football team. You just can't name that sort of stuff in the spring because there is a legitimate battle. It's not over. Nothing is over. Scrimmage today, we'll talk about it later. But nothing is over about the Alabama quarterback battle. It's a competition that's going to continue all the way through fall camp. And by the way, who's going to improve the most between today and the fall? I would say the freshman is. Keelan Russell's the guy that's probably going to improve the most because he's the one that's thrown into the deep end this spring. He's going to be learning to swim this summer. Everybody else is kind of a little bit more entrenched and you are what you are. Keelan's the one that's going to be improving by leaps and bounds. So this thing isn't over just yet.
We're going to talk a little fabric now, one of our newer sponsors. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. See Luke Robinson. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Price is subject to underwriting and health questions. Also want to talk about Prize Picks because they're back with us now. And of course, you know, we love Prize Picks over here.
Friends, Prize Picks.
This, Prize Picks is back, our old arch friend. I don't know if that's a thing. Baseball season is in full swing, except for the Braves.
Oh, that hurt.
And there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. This week, I'm picking Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run. That sounds like easy cash. And Shohei Ohtani for more than 1 stolen base. Also pretty easy.
Aaron Judge had 7 home runs this morning.
He just wakes up and hits home runs. I mean, it's crazy.
Literally.
Setting up a lineup takes less than 60 seconds, yo. I mean, what are you going to do? And when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, you know you want to run your game.
You know, baseball is so different than football, Luke. It's so radically different in terms of prospects and ranking, and you got the minor leagues and everything like that. One of the most shocking things, me and you talk all the time about people dismissive of 3 stars or 4 stars, and we spend so much of our time focusing on 5 stars. Aaron Judge was not a 5-star guy. Aaron Judge might be one of the great home run hitters that's ever walked the face of this earth. Not a, quote, 5-star prospect, not out of high school, not even out of college. And he played at Fresno. Is that right? I mean, I'm just saying, it's just good example, even though it's a different sport than what we normally talk about here. But Aaron Judge is not what I think casual baseball fans might assume. Well, there was your number 1 pick in the draft. Actually, no.
Speaking of baseball, Alabama is at Auburn this weekend. So big series. Again, when you're on the road in the SEC, the goal is always get 1, if you ask me. So just get 1, 2 is gravy, and 3 would be euphoric.
I think they might get 2 this weekend at Auburn. That would be my prediction, even though I realize what that's saying. It's really tough to win road series. But I like Alabama's chances to win 2 of 3. Softball at LSU, they'll be fortunate to win 1. Yeah. And I would say that about virtually every softball team in the SEC. You're just not going to go to Baton Rouge, and scraping out 1 win will be difficult.
Let's talk a little bit, speaking of Isaiah Horton, Zay Horton, as he goes by. He mentioned that one of the, again, another clue that Ty Simpson will be the starter. He mentioned one of the reasons he came to Alabama was because of Ty Simpson. Mm-hmm. They were on a 7-on-7 crew together, travel squad, something. And he loves him. He says, that's my dude. And by the way, Isaiah Horton is literally turning heads in practice. And this comes from folks who are national writers. There was one guy for On 3 who is not exactly Alabama friendly, but he talked about how, man, I'm hearing a lot of stuff about Zay Horton and how awesome he's been. And then I happen to know some folks that have maybe gotten a close look, and they go, this dude's a dude. I mean, yeah, in the depth chart, he's going to be number 3. In your heart, he might be 1B. I mean, Ryan Williams, this is a Ryan Williams podcast, but I mean, and then Jeremy Bernard, he might be 1C, but I'm saying there's a difference between being the 3rd wide receiver and 1C.
Right. Oh, there is. And I felt, and I talked about it here, I think when Zay Horton committed to Alabama out of the transfer portal, I felt right away he would be wide receiver number 3 at Alabama behind Ryan and Germ. It's certainly looking that way this spring. Like Kalen DeBoer said when asked about him, the lights aren't too bright for him. I mean, because he's been playing college football for a couple of years. But I think Zay Horton now will combine with Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard to be one of the better wide receiver groups in the country, because we know Ryan's a future, probable top 10 pick in the draft. Jeremy Bernard is a pro football player, in my opinion. I don't think he's a day one guy, but Jeremy Bernard is going to play in the NFL, and I think Zay Horton is an NFL player too. He's a little different he's a bigger dude than Ryan and Jeremy. You need that. You need all your wide receivers to look a little different, do different things. Zay could end up proving to be the possession receiver on this team, and that's such a vital role on 3rd down and in the red zone, having this bigger target with great hands. And I'm excited about Zay Horton and the fact and agreed. One of the reasons we're talking about Zay today, Luke, is his quote about, hey, one of the reasons I chose Alabama was Ty Simpson, because Zay is from Tennessee, just like Ty, and they played a lot of the 7-on-7 summer stuff together, even though they're from different areas of Tennessee. And Zay said, yeah, one of the reasons I came to Alabama is I wanted to play with Ty. And that's saying a lot because, obviously he's been down there. He just played with Cam Ward. I mean, Cam Ward's about to be the first pick in the draft. Zay Horton was a Cam Ward receiver, and he's like, yeah, I want to play with Ty. So I think it's significant. I think it gets back to what we've been talking about for a while now, which is it's going to be unsaid, and it doesn't matter because you're not naming a starter until the fall and into fall camp when things could change. But as of today, as of broadcasting this show, boy, there seems to be a lot of things pointing in Ty's direction.
Yeah, and again, I can understand still the optimism over Austin Mack or Keelan Russell or both of them. And I can understand why some people have the argument, well, if Ty Simpson was so good, why didn't he take over for Jalen Milroe? I'm going to say all this stuff, it makes sense on the surface, but if you dig deeper, you understand why Ty Simpson never took over while Jalen Milroe was struggling at times. You understand. But that being said, I do want to talk
time and time again.
Huh?
I said we've addressed it time and time again. And again, to reiterate, to me, it's I get the point. I get the point that people are making when they make that. I just don't think the coaches looked at it in the same way that the person making the point, the coaches didn't look at it that way. It's
literally a picture is worth 1,000 words moment, because if you take just that snapshot, like, hey, Jalen, did you see the Oklahoma game? Okay. Again, fair point, because even I was tweeting that game. Hey, it may be time to make a change, at least for this game.
I remember you saying that, and I don't think that's a terrible take based on how bad Jalen was playing. But
you got to go big picture.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let me ask you. I mean, and again, this is going to be mistaken, and that's fine. But let me ask you: who is Cincinnati's backup? The Bengals. Do you know?
Oof.
I asked that. I don't know. Who's Burrow's backup?
God, I probably would have said AJ McCarron if you gun to my head.
It's like, I'm not sure who it is, to be frank, and that's one of the reasons I asked him. My point being, it doesn't matter, because Burrow can play bad he can have that Oklahoma game, he can have the Tennessee game and the Oklahoma game back to back. And are they going to say, hey, let's take a look at the backup? No, Joe Burrow is Cincinnati's quarterback. The coaches, right or wrong, you can criticize this all you want. That's why they never went to Jalen Milroe was the quarterback. Done. Just like Burrow is the quarterback in Cincinnati. Am I comparing the two? Of course not. I'm just saying they're entrenched as the starters, and that's why it had nothing to do with them not having confidence in Ty Simpson. They had a ton of confidence in Jalen Milroe. They did. It just didn't work out a couple times.
Well, turns out all the people in the comments that say Jimmy is bootlicking Ty Simpson is right. He just said Ty Simpson is Joe Burrow.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about 5-hour energy. Daylight savings time has snuck up on us again. I'm still not 100% used to this. Now, if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-hour energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-hour energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up late because I was watching a lot of the NCAA tournament. Don't have to do it anymore. Probably won't even watch Final Four. But I'm going to need 5-hour energy because I'm going to visit some in-laws this weekend. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. Those sound delicious. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-hour energy at any grocery store, convenience store. You know how it goes. They're everywhere. Stock up and stay energized with 5-hour energy. Jimmy?
.com.
Yeah, that one's on me.
That's still how we do it.
But I'll say this. If people don't know to put the .com, it's still going to come up. It's going to be like a free Google.
Do you even have to put a .com anymore?
I don't know.
We'll test that as soon as the show's over. But
it's like when Bart Simpson was watching Homer at a music festival, and he was like, "What are you dancing to? This song's not great," or something. And Homer said, "This is TCB by BTO." He said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Taking Care of Business by Bachman Turner Overdrive." He said, "Why didn't you just say that?" He said, "That was how we talked in the 70s. We didn't have a moment to spare." All right. Recruiting. There's a scrimmage. So let's work both these things in together. There's a scrimmage today, and it's a big one. I mean, it's going to be a big deal. And I'm anxious to get some of those leaked reports from various folks because it's going to be fun.
Imagine there's no A-Day is not going to be a game, right?
Yeah.
The day.
So this is it. This is the thing. Everybody needs to absorb this however they can. And but there's also going to be a lot of good visitors here. And not the least of which is Elijah Golden, who has officially been in Tuscaloosa more than I have this year.
That's probably true. And if there's probably a couple names, there's going to be several kids visiting today, as they do when they practice in the stadium and sort of show off a lot of stuff. But the two names I'm watching, Elijah Golden will be the headliner for me. Again, as Luke said, frequent visitor to Tuscaloosa. Also, not a short trip. Sarasota, right? I think this is Cardinal Mooney High School in Sarasota, Florida. Sarasota is a heck of a trip. I mean, that's a long drive right there. Now, I don't know whether he's driving or flying. Either way, you got to go, wow, that's a heck of a statement he's making just by being here again. And this is one of those defensive linemen y'all talk about all the time. There was no position I get asked more about than defensive line recruiting. And here's a guy that is an industry-wide blue chipper that a couple of services rank even in the elite category. And On3 actually ranks him lower than the others. I get the feeling looking at On3's rankings, there hasn't been a full workup on him yet. I'm guessing. So in other words, this is a guy who's already a consensus or industry blue chipper that's going to be a riser in the recruiting rankings as the rankings process continues. He loves Alabama clearly and is one of those defensive linemen you guys are talking about all the time. A slam dunk SEC level interior defensive lineman. And he's there today again.
With Jonas Walton, who is the number 7 running back in the country, I would say Elijah Golden probably more likely to end up at Alabama just because you would think Alabama with E.J. Crowell and, who knows. But I think they're covering their bases there with Walton, and he's no slouch. Now, when it comes to the scrimmage itself, Bama Online put 6 players that are important for this scrimmage. And, obviously Ty Simpson is going to be scrutinized. I mean, his performance is going to be under the microscope. But they bring up a good point. I think it's even more important for Austin Mack / Keelan Russell. They put Austin Mack and not Keelan Russell there, but I think it's going to be interesting to see which one of these makes the move to clear number 2. And the other one that stands out to me, and again, I heard this from a practice the other day, that with Marshall Pritchett out the rest of the spring, with Danny Lewis out this spring, they bring up Josh Cuevas and the one they list is Jay Lindsey. 2 tight ends. This isn't look. Grubb and DeBoer like the tight end, and we've been recruiting tight ends like you wouldn't believe. But it's going to be interesting because apparently we ain't got a lot of them right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've said it before. It's certainly worth saying again. I think going with the transfer portal, the spring transfer portal, which gets started up really, really soon. If there's one position I'm sort of expecting Alabama to be active in, it's looking for an additional tight end. But they're a little short on numbers. I don't think the numbers are that bad. But what is bad is we really didn't have a great spring at tight end because Danny Lewis, who's sort of the projected starter, he missed the entirety of the spring. He's hurt. Marshall Pritchett's been banged up, the true freshman. They're excited about his future, but he's been banged up and now isn't even able to practice at all. And then all you're left with is Jay Lindsey and Josh Cuevas because Caleb Edwards, the second freshman tight end, he's one of the few that aren't here. I think there's only 3 of them, Luke. I think there's only 3 freshmen who are not early entry guys who couldn't make it until this summer. And Caleb Edwards, a tight end, was one of those guys. So you're missing Caleb Edwards. Danny Lewis is out. Marshall Pritchett's now hurt. All you got left is Josh Cuevas, Jay Lindsey, and the walk-ons. And by the way, I love Josh Cuevas, who's obviously a good receiver. He's added some size. When you look at photos and the video of Josh Cuevas from last year to this year, he's clearly added some good size. I'm excited about how good Cuevas might be this fall. And Jay Lindsey, I'm also high on him. We just have to realize this is a redshirt freshman that played at an extremely low level of high school ball. So it was always going to take a hot minute with him. I think he's probably a year away, but my comp for him has been, and I mean this as a compliment, but to me, he's Robbie Oost, who was a very valuable player for us over the past 2 or 3 seasons as that extra tight end physical presence. And I think Lindsey can develop into Robbie Oost. It's just going to possibly take a hot minute. He's getting some good reps, though, right now with all these tight ends out. That might be speeding up the development process a little bit for Jay Lindsey, getting all this extra time with the other tight ends being out.
Yeah, that is sort of the unintended consequence in a positive way. Now, the other thing, they put Isaiah Horton on the list. I would not put him on the list because of just what I've heard in terms of how good he's been. I would go one category down. I would say a Rico Scott, Derek Meadows, a Latsier Brooks, a Jalen Hale. Those are the ones I would say, okay, let's see who steps up as that 4th guy.
I agree. I know this is a controversial, we're getting ahead of ourselves thing to say. It's just I feel pretty strongly about it. I think the top of the wide receiver hierarchy has already been set. In my mind, Ryan is 1, and Jeremy Bernard is 2, and I think Zay Horton is 3. And I agree with Luke. I think the question then starts at who's at 4. Is it Jalen Hale coming off injury? Is it Cole Adams or Sam Collins, as we'll now refer him to? Is he the number 4 guy? Rico Scott, who, by the way, Malachi Moore bragged about at Senior Bowl practices, was saying how good he thought Rico Scott was. And I think we're all excited about Rico Scott. Is it the new freshman like Latsier Brooks and Derek Meadows, both reportedly doing well right out of the gate? I think the question starts, Jalen Mbakwe. The question starts, who's 4 and who's getting squeezed out of this rotation, because you're really only going to play about 6 guys. Once you get into the 7th guy, 8th guy, now you're robbing reps from Ryan and Jern, which is, you can't do that.
You don't want to do that. I don't want to take anything from Ryan Williams. Nothing, ever.
Remember when we threw it at him 18 times against Tennessee? Maybe that should be the baseline for every game.
I just want him to have it all. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah.
And so happy for us that
we be our first EGOT.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We will be back soon with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.